Hello and welcome to another episode of the Construction Corner podcast. I'm Dylan. I'm your host, joined by my traveling blue collar badass in his big rig this week. Matt, how's it going, man?
It is going fantastic. Like you mentioned, I'm in my truck. It's been a busy day, busy week, but that is nature of the beast these days. So just glad we could still connect and get something recorded, man.
Yeah, hey, when you do things out in real life and you have to get in a vehicle and go see people and see projects, and it's just the nature of the beast.
Yes, sir. You got to pay the bills. As much fun as it is to sit at HQ2 in my cushy new studio, you got to pay the bills.
You mean you got a real job?
Yeah, yeah. Outside of being a podcaster.
Oh man, we went back and forth on a few topics here that I think would be really good to start in on. I for both of us, things are going crazy. I signed two new clients this week, a bunch of proposals out. You've got a bunch of projects in the works. So I get, in the work side business life, all that's really good. But for the folks out there, I think we need to give some value to. So one of the topics that really we wanted to dive in on was loyalty between GCs, design consultants, subs, and what that means and looks like. So I'll let you start in on this and get your thoughts on it, and then I'll put in my 2 cents worth.
So this is a topic that rings near and dear to me always, but lately especially. Um, so I've, given the way we approach the market, right? We are a true design build general contractor. We focus super heavily on relationships, and that is all across the board, from relationships with our clients to relationships with our specialty contractors to our design consultants, everybody. That's how the system works. And it's how it works so well. And it's how we're good at what we do because we can rely on each other as one big kind of cohesive team, right? So I'm going to be careful how far I go with details, but recently we had a specialty contractor who I am personal friends with. I mean, I keep my personal and business life very separate usually, but sometimes it's hard not to intermix the two. So I'm friends with this guy. Um, he had introduced us to a potential candidate for a role we've been looking to hire for quite a while now. And we've been kind of talking with this dude, kind of courting back and forth. There were some delays on our side. There were some delays on this guy's side as to when he wanted to come on board. And we were all fine with that in our camp, right? We're not rushing to bring anyone on at the wrong time. So we were kind of slow playing it. We're keeping tabs with this dude every few months with the sole intention of hiring him, frankly, coming up real soon here. Well, I happened to be out last week with my buddy, with our specialty contractor, and he tells me that, oh, did you hear the news? I said, no, what news? And he tells me that a competitor of ours, a very unfriendly local firm, scooped this dude up and hired him out of the blue. So I was pissed originally, just that we missed out on an opportunity. I was pissed at myself, pissed at my team for not moving faster. But the more I started digging into this, I realized like this guy was kind of one of those gems in the rough, right? Like he's not a dude that this other firm would have known about, unless, and here's the real kicker, unless a certain introduction was made by a certain someone who happens to be one of our specialty contractors we work with all the time. So once I realized kind of what happened and that this introduction was made, knowing full well that, I mean, we're on the cusp of making this guy an offer, the tables kind of turned. And, that's about as far as I'll get into the weeds on it. But you can imagine the situation it creates now, right? Because we are such a loyalty-based industry, really, not just us, but Schaefer Construction especially. The way we approach the market is different. And for one of our quote unquote our guys to kind of do that and basically pull the rug out from underneath us for no real reason was it was like a slap in the face, man. And it's also one of those industries that, we all try to be real fair and we try not to hold grudges, but sometimes that shit sticks, right? If you throw it at the wall long enough, it eventually sticks. And I don't know where it's going with our relationship with this particular person, and it's unfortunate. Um, we're not gonna broom anybody for something like that. But on the same hand, can't say that I'm gonna be preferential or lean towards bringing this individual onto my team right away without other reasons involved. So it's definitely a topic kind of very high on my list these days. So I figured we'd bring it out there. Want to get your take on it, man.
Yeah. I mean, my first thoughts on this is one, it's unfortunate, in that he was playing the field in a way where it wasn't even his field to play necessarily, you know,
Right,
and it's not him looking for a job, it's not him looking for, he was making recommendations for somebody and he shopped it, all around. Um,
right,
and then it didn't play out, cards didn't fall, and it either way somebody was going to be mad about it when they found out, one way or another, right? Your competitor, somebody was going to be mad. And then to play that, it's like this guy really didn't think it through, and who's going to be mad, and I think there's some of that, it's like right intention and he doesn't realize the parts behind it, right? Where he's basically putting a guy and introducing him to competitors who ultimately need this individual, right? In their role within the firm. And now you're going to make somebody mad, and you're still trying to do the right thing because you probably work for both of them. And so you made the introduction thinking it was the right thing to do. Yet on the other side of that, when the chips fell where they did, somebody's mad, right? And it happens to be you out of this. And so to me, it's hard and it's not, right? Because I could see it from your side in that hey, this guy got introduced. We're these hiring pieces, especially in a key role, right? For somebody that's higher up in the company, those things take a long time, right? They don't, when they're leaving a company, they don't want to put that company in the lurch, right? They want, when you hire somebody on, you want to make sure you've got a spot for them for, the foreseeable future, right? So
right,
that they're not in the lurch, and they're only here for 3 months and then the work dries up, right? That's not good for anybody either. So the timing of this is always one of those balancing acts between, do you have enough work to bring them on? Are they comfortable leaving, right? And they finished up their projects, so they feel that their duty is done there. If you're, respectable in that manner, especially on the construction side, on the engineering side, like there's certain points you can probably leave, but our projects are so rolling. Like, don't leave 2 weeks before CDs go out, man. Like, just finish through, at least issuance of drawings. Um, but again, like I'm talking 2 weeks a month, like not, hey, I got 3 months till this project's gonna wrap. And if I leave now, they're kind of screwed on the job site, like that's a very bad position to put everybody in. So I get the timing issue of it. And I'm just trying to see this from both sides, because then you have this, like as the specialty contractor, do you just, because it would be different, and I don't know this, and maybe answer this question, is he solely working for you on all your jobs, or is he also doing stuff for this competitor?
oh, he's definitely doing stuff for this competitor and others. And I've kind of touched on that before. I would love to be able to, you know, have a team that works only for me, that only works for Schaefer Construction ever. But that's not the reality of the way we build things. So, I get it. And yes, I don't think the dude did it in a vindictive fashion. I think you're right. I think he probably just, didn't think the shit through and was, made a recommendation, made an introduction, and, before you know it, it's out of his hands anyways. But as the owner of a company in my mind, and call it what you will, it was a mistake without a doubt.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and again, I see it from your side and like, don't introduce me, to people if you're going to shop this guy around too. Like, are you a recruiter? Like, and not that he's getting
Exactly.
paid out of it. And it's like a hard thing to do because you're always trying to like just make introductions. And then, again, the chips are going to fall where they may. It's out of his hands at that point. Right. Like, he's
For
thinking he's
sure.
doing right by this guy, like somebody in that situation. Again, he just didn't think it through. And I think that's where it comes to, always. And again, I could see like you just keep making introductions like, hey, it didn't work now, not maybe looking at his scenario. And I'm also like, I'm not putting blame on anybody because I could see it from all sides, right? Like, of by no means is it a good scenario, especially because you're the one that missed out, right? If you got him, then you'd be happy with it and it wouldn't have mattered,
Right.
right? On the other side. And then somebody else on in other conversations would be complaining about it. So, and you would never have known that they got introduced to other people, maybe until later, right? Down the road that he interviewed, elsewhere. Um,
Yeah, without a doubt, man. And it's not like it's a thing that is going to sink us, right? It wasn't going to make or break us. Period. It would have been a great addition to our team, but you know, we're not going out for blood on this one. But it's more just of a, it's the principle of it, man. And it's the
yep.
loyalty and relationships principle, and that's it. Like, just before you go and we're not dealing with pimps and hoes. Nobody owns this dude. He's free to make his own decisions and go where he could have gone and met these folks on his own too, right? I mean, or somebody else. So it's not like I'm all bent out of shape on that end, but it's the third party kind of commingling inside there. Like, just give it a second thought, before you do something like that. Like, is this going to have the intended reaction or the intended consequence that I'm going for?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think too, in there, it goes to a bigger thing within the industry, right? So when I was in an MEP firm, where before I was in, so when I worked in architecture firms, it wasn't like that big a deal, right? So engineers were, MEP was in house with the architects, like we were all one big team. We didn't go outside and work with outside firms, right? We either won or lost the project, period, end of story. And so in those instances, like, again, we didn't really team. We had, maybe we teamed structurally or civilly for projects, and then that depended on where they were, but fairly cut and dry. And then for like when I was in an MEP firm, we worked with a bunch of architects, and it just depended on the project. And so then you had this pseudo competition, but really it was, we worked with this firm on healthcare, and this firm was in hospital, this firm was out of hospital, and that was chosen by the hospital systems, not our choice. And then we worked with these architects on like institutional projects, right? Like in Indiana University or any of those deals. So we didn't have as much commingling there, but I can see, and in on the construction side, especially like, and especially on the specialty contractor side, who you tie your wagon to matters a lot, because that
Yes.
superintendent, that project manager will make or break you. And even in some of the bigger firms, in the design build side that we're now going after, um, with some of those guys, like they wait, and the contractors that I'm starting to work with, what I'm hearing from them is like, yeah, that's a big company. They do a lot of cool work. I wait until I see whose name as a project manager is assigned to it. And then I decide if I want to bid on that project or not, because it'll make or break those projects. And so two things in there. One is, again, the bigger the firm you get, the harder it is to keep that quality control, to where now, each person very much matters on that project, and then who's going to work on that project for you. And then two, specialty contractors hitching your wagon, like, you have to be very selective, because even if you're great at your job, the GC can break you on those projects, and then vice versa, right? As a GC, if you pick bad people, right, it'll break your project too. So very, symbiotic relationship in there. And I'm just starting to see more of it, especially as I get more into the design build world and with these, straight with electrical contractors.
Yeah, man. And I mean, a lot of it's a razor's edge, right? You fall one way and it's in my mind inappropriate. You fall the other way, it's perfectly justified. And that's, you got to dance that line. We all have to do it. But, like I said, I'm not a vindictive person by nature. But next time I get the choice of who's going to be on my team, like I can tell you who's not at the top of my list, and call it
Mm-hmm.
whatever you want. That's just, I think it's human nature, right? Burn
Yep.
me once, uh, shame on you. Burn me twice, shame on me, or whatever the hell it is. Um, it's just it's a weird dichotomy that we live with in our world that I don't think most people kind of understand those intricacies, but it's almost like you got to have a damn psychology degree at times to kind of funnel your way through some of this stuff, because it's not, a lot of it's not cut and dry, right? A lot of it is the fluffy kind of more quantum side of reality, and I don't know, I'm rambling, I don't want to do that today, but it's just an unfortunate situation, and what it does too is it casts doubt, and that's the kiss of death in our world. It casts doubt to me and to my whole team, like, all right, well, he just did this. Now, if we bring him in, early on a project, sometimes before we sign it with our client, now am I questioning whether someone else is going to find out about my prospect, or is someone else going to find out about the great project manager that I have, or it just kind of trickles all downhill, and you start asking these questions, you start casting that doubt, and that can lead to the end of a really good relationship really fast, because at the end of the day, I'm responsible for feeding a whole shit ton of mouths, and if I think there's an individual or a company or whatever that may put that in jeopardy, I can tell you who wins every day. I'm feeding my people.
That's such a great point, man. Yeah, that this one action now puts doubt on everything else, good or bad, right? It just, you now have a question, your antennas are up, your radar's up, and everything now gets questioned and put under a finer lens than it would have otherwise.
Than it would have, or probably than it should, right? But
Mm-hmm.
again, it's we cast that doubt already, that you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. So now I'm always going to be questioning, what are his real motives? What are we doing here? What, who's the next guy that he's going to talk to after he hangs up with me? And it's unfortunate, to say the least.
Yeah, well, and it goes, man, that's such a good point, because the amount of work he has to do to overcome it, and if it can ever be overcome again, is, well, one, to do a lot of work to overcome it is one part of it, but if it will ever be overcome, even if that work is done, is the other side of it, which you can never answer until it's done, but you're always going to have doubt in there, right? In some level, right? It might not be as high as it is today, but it will never be back to where it was.
Exactly, exactly that. And back to the way we do business on our end, most of our guys, most of our specialty contractors, even our designers for the most part, short a couple, will never, ever, ever bring a project to us, ever. Just, it's not the way this world that I live in works. So we're always bringing the project first, which means that we're always picking a team, and right, wrong, or indifferent, that's how it is. And I get it. Like, I got to feed my people. His guys got to eat too. I totally understand that, and that's why we look the other way a lot when our closest specialty contractors do work for our direct competitors, because we have to. But then you go and throw this other thing in the mix, and yeah, I mean, you're right. Like, this will ebb and flow. It'll fade over time. But I'm always going to have that question now. It's not like, I've had guys in the past in my life that have done pretty egregious shit, and it ended up, in face to face screaming matches, and I can tell you beyond any shadow of doubt, I'll never bring one of them onto my job again. That's not this situation. This was more of a subtle fuck up, if you want my take on it. It was a subtle fuck up
Yeah.
that threatens the sanctity of what we do, and because of that, like, it just puts a dark cloud over this dude's head in my mind.
This goes to a bigger topic, and I know we've covered it a bunch here, and next we'll get into kind of true design build here, and give it some time, I think, unless we want to expand on some crabs in the bucket. But the the nature of so the old boys club is what everyone wants to mention, right, or reference in a lot of this, right? And construction was one of those industries that is the old boys club, and they don't understand how it works. And just having been a farm kid and been around a lot of this kind of stuff, is it takes time because the projects that we work on are big, right? And yours are getting bigger, and the stuff that I work on is just inherently as an electrical engineer, like, are by nature big. I don't do houses, like, I don't do residential, I don't do multifamily. Like, the only things that I get involved in are, 10 million plus dollar projects, right? Like 20,000 square foot fit outs. That's like a minimum starting point for, as an electrical engineer, to start getting involved in these projects. And so by that nature, like, you have to be on your game, you have to be good, and people have to have an inherent amount of trust in what you do for them to allow you to be a part of their project, because there's so much at risk when we go and do these things. So by that nature, this old boys club is, quote, shut off or hard to get into, but it's for that risk mitigation reason. You can't let somebody fresh, onto it, which is why, as a young person, typically you go work in these firms, right? You go as a contractor, upcoming project manager, project engineer, anything like that. On the construction side, you go work for the Turners, you go work for the Jacobs, you go work for the big boys and get experience on, or Skanska or whatever. You go work for them and get experience on some of these very big projects that you would never otherwise be allowed to touch. And you do that as, assistant, junior, whatever, intern on those projects, and you work your way up to project manager, superintendent, or whatever that you want to be for those, big $100+ million builds that those firms do, $1 billion builds, like the Stratosphere that just, opened in Vegas, right? Like, that's $1 billion sphere project that got put up. So,
Right.
like, you're not going to do that day one out of college. It's just not going to happen. And this, quote, old boys network that everyone, references in some way, shape, or form, a lot of it's just built into, like, you do right by me, and we build enough history and trust to where I allow you to come and have an opportunity on, these smaller projects to build into these, the bigger ones that we end up doing.
Exactly, man. You nailed it. It is risk mitigation. And you mentioned getting more into the true design build world. Well, that's it. Like, true design build at its core is the assumption and the management and the mitigation of risk. And really, that's it. And as the GC, the puppet master in this play, we take on the lion's share of risk by virtue of how we approach the market. We hold the design contracts, we hold the construction contracts, we hold literally everything. So all of the risk that is in a normal, design bid construction, it's kind of spread out. It all falls on us, on our shoulders. And so when we have an incident like this, it's not just me being butthurt or pissed off, just because of my personality. It's me now watching out for the overall good of the company, and the bottom line that it's not all about making money in this world, but it is about keeping the doors open to do good and to keep my people happy and well. And if there's anything that threatens that, then it becomes a problem. And it's like, you go and get an MRI and they see lumps in you somewhere, they're going to go check them out, and if they look ugly, they're going to cut them the fuck right out of you. And that's how this game works. And it's very, very similar. If somebody goes wrong and goes afoul and starts doing shit like this or whatever, there's a million different examples you could interject into this topic, right? This just happens to be one that's very topical for me these days. But you cut it out because you can't risk not doing it because of the other risk you're looking at.
Right. There's so much inherent risk anyway that any additional risk is not worth it.
Yeah, I mean it's hard enough to sleep at night. I don't need to put more on top of that.
Right, right, right. Well, and so doing it right. Let's talk about that. And we'll end on this note, and this will be our last segment here. But to dive into a little bit into the La Casa project, and if we need to finish this up on the next episode, we can by all means do that. It's our show. We can do whatever we want. But
Hell yeah.
so start to walk us through, La Casa project and that going right, now that it's revealed as to what it is. And actually, if you want to
Yeah,
start with what is La Casa, since you've shared that, and then we can go from there.
yeah, man. So La Casa is an organization locally to us. They are if not the largest, they're one of the largest providers of counseling and shelter services for victims of the three different abuses: domestic, sexual, and there's another one that I always forget. They're all nasty. We'll put it that way. Um, they provide services to women, to children, even men in some cases, albeit that's a different ball game because of our male egos mainly. But they're really a phenomenal group. They do amazing work. This project. So this is the project that if you follow me on social or Safer Construction on social, we've been calling it our top secret Livingston County project for over a year now. There were reasons for that, primarily based around how nonprofits raise funds to do things, and there was stipulations on how and when they could go public, and it was a great project for us. So as much as I would have loved to blab it from the rooftops, we can play ball with the best of them. So we kept it a quote unquote secret, although ironically it was probably the worst kept secret in Livingston County. But I digress on that. So it's this great group. They do truly amazing work. We got introduced to them early on in 2020, kind of right as the world was falling apart, or seemingly falling apart. We got brought into a situation. We went and met with these folks with their board, and their board is enormous. It's like 20 some odd people.
Wow.
And what had happened was what I preach about all the time. They need a new facility. The place they're in currently, or they were in, it started off as a house, a residential house in downtown in the area. And then over the years, it's been kind of added on to and cobbled on, and it did what they needed it to do. I mean, it's amazing they did what they did in the space they had, but it was ramshackle. There was people working out of closets in the basement. They converted a single hole bathroom to the chief development officer's office. I mean, that's the kind of space constraints that these people had. Now introduce COVID into the mix, and the need for their services skyrocketed like 75, 80%, almost overnight. And so on top of not having the space internally, because like I mentioned, they provide shelter services too. So victims of abuse can stay here or stay there for as long as they want at no cost to them. So during COVID, the demand got so high they physically couldn't put any more people in their building. So they were paying for hotel rooms, for long-term hotel rooms to put these people in. And that's obviously not it's not a sustainable business model for someone or some group that relies on fundraising and donations. So anyways, I'll try and speed it up a little bit, but they hired an architect, a local architect. They said, here's our budget. We need a new facility. Architect leaves, takes whatever, a few months, 6 months, designs them a beautiful building by right. I mean, I've seen the drawings. I have the drawings. Designs it, puts it out on the street to bid. We didn't even bid on it. I don't know if we didn't know about it or I just didn't want to touch it at the time, but we didn't look at it then. Bids come back in and they are legitimately double what the budget was. Double. So these people have spent, 6 figures on a set of drawings that they can't afford. Somehow, by God's grace, they learned about us, about Schaefer Construction, and they reached out. And they said, hey, we've heard about you guys and the way you do business. Can you come talk to us? We need help. And so we agreed. We showed up at this first meeting, and we're talking with this whole board, and it was me and my then, at the time, my business partner, who's now since retired, and they're telling us this story, and it's like, shit, man, I talk about this on the podcast. Like, this is exactly worst case scenario that I tell everyone why they should go with the design build route. And so they finished telling us this story. I mean, and it's emotional, right? What they do is emotional work. So the stories I've heard are, they're gut wrenching, and to see these people like getting raked over the coals like this, like it hurts you, right? As a good human. So they look at me after their presentation. They said, "How can you help us? Can you help us?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I can help you. You're not going to like it." And so, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, here's how we're going to start." And I took their drawings and I rolled them up and I threw them in the garbage can. And I said, "Now we start from zero." And they were like jaws dropped, hitting the table, like, "Oh my God, we spent, however much money on these drawings. You can't possibly expect this." And I said, "Listen, folks, this is the only way this works. And I promise you, if you follow our lead, we can show you how to do this." And there was a few more meetings. There was, reference checks and presentations and, dog and pony type shit that we all do anyways. Eventually, long story short, they put their trust in us, and they signed up with us. We signed during the worst of COVID, when nobody was, in Michigan, no one was legally allowed to be meeting in person. We were still doing it. We went, and over the course of, I don't know, the next 2 years, we designed and then built a building that came in. It's exactly what they need. I mean, and then some. It's larger than square footage than they need. It's larger than the original design. It houses more victims than they had in the original design. And go figure, it came in at budget, right where we told them it would be. And I mean, it's been a roller coaster because of the times we went through. We did some shit on this project. Like, I mean, we ordered steel almost a year in advance. Like, we didn't have final design, and we slotted steel because we knew, like, the market was going insane. Commodity pricing was going insane, and we've kind of touched on bits and pieces of this over the last couple of years on the show, but I never was able to say why it was top of mind. But when we ordered steel, knowing, like, okay, there's a 50-50 shot that we're not even able to use this. So talk about risk. Like, there you go. Like, that's the world I live in. We put, call it $2 million down to order steel that we didn't know was able to be used. And if it turned out it couldn't be used, I'm not going to hose my steel guy for that. That would be my hit all day long. And anyways, I mean, I don't want to suck up all the airways with it, but that's kind of the story. It was a wonderful success story for us, for La Casa. They're now finally in the process of moving in, which is a whole nother beast unto itself. I mean, moving, I think they have 80 some employees, plus all the people that stay at the shelter, plus all the people that come in and do outpatient counseling and things. Like, it's a big animal to just, you don't just pack it up in a weekend and move to your new house. But they're doing what they're doing. It's going well, and it's been an amazing project to work on from a business perspective, but really on a personal level, man. Because it gets you in the feels, like, over and over and over again. Hearing some of these stories, it was like, oh my God, most of us are so lucky that we don't have to deal with some of that shit. That when you hear stories about it and you hear the gory, gruesome details about it, like, it is mind numbing at times. But anyways, that's La Casa, dude. They do amazing work. I posted about it a week or so ago, finally revealed it. If anyone's interested, it's lacasacenter.org. Again, they're a nonprofit. They make all of their money through, or most of their money through, fundraising and donations. Check out the site if you've got the wherewithal, help them out. If you're local, they do some pretty cool events throughout the year that we attend all of them now, or most of them. There's a garden walk that you won't catch me at, but the other ones are cool. So yeah, man, just a cool group, a cool project, and a great testament to the power of true design build and what can happen when you really approach this world as a cohesive team.
Man, there's so many stories in there that I would love to touch on, and I think we need to probably do another episode on it in itself, right? And
For sure.
uh steel and HVAC units and ordering electrical gear, and having, again, this probably has what, 200 people in it on a daily basis, I would imagine.
Yeah. Yep.
In that, parking for 200 people, getting approvals for it, like all the parts and pieces that come through in there, moving 80 people, heck, in my little office, I think it took me a week to
Yeah. Right.
move in. And granted, I had to put my own furniture together, but I can imagine, them starting to run computers and IT cabling. And granted, a lot of that's probably in, but just setting everything up and, setting up your cube and getting computers and hardware and all the other knickknacks and trinkets and packing it up from one area. And like, I've moved a lot in my life, and the junk drawer takes more time than the bedroom does to take apart.
That's right. Yep. And
So
with them all, I mean, think of all the records and shit that a group like that has to keep,
yeah,
and they've been, for the last year, they've been systematically going through and scanning and shredding. But still, man, I mean, rooms and rooms full of paper documents and records from, I mean, and it's legal shit. Like, they can't get rid of it.
yeah, and a lot of
It's
them,
tied up in court cases.
yeah, jeez, man. Well, and a lot of that, like the paper stuff, you've got to keep paper. Like, you actually have to physically keep paper, I'm pretty sure, for a certain time period. That's
A lot of
mandatory.
it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's insane. And then, yeah, I'm sure you're putting in like file racks and all that kind of stuff in there, uh, for and all that kind of good stuff. But man, we're bumping up on time here, so let's dive into La Casa more. I think there's so many lessons learned that we can pull out of it, and being able to pull it off. But I mean, the highlights for this episode are, half the price, right? Or half of what it, or mainly that it came in on budget, right? Came in on budget, came in on time. It, you know, gave them what they needed, more than what they needed. And, you were able to pull it off because you have the team to execute these projects. I mean, at the end of the day, I think that's what it's all about. They got people what they needed, um, and more. And that's
Yeah.
it.
That's exactly right, man.
Cool. Let's slot this for the next episode, and then we can get into. I would like to touch back on some of the crabs in the bucket thing, and my take on some of this
Yeah,
today, and
for
how
sure.
I approach it, and really how I've kept all the crabs away. I just have my own bucket. Um,
It's not a bad place to be, man.
so, all right, guys, for or any last words for this episode, Matt?
No, man, I'm gonna keep harping though. Guys, check out our YouTube channel. Like, share, review the show. We're growing leaps and bounds. Just help us out, and we'll keep doing this.
And guys, thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate you guys listening, liking, sharing, all that kind of good stuff that we see out there. So keep up the good work. And until next time.